Perfect. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Observant Lineman. I am your Observant Lineman, Uche Nwaneri. And man, it feels like I haven't been in front of the camera for a while. You know, I've been doing a lot of work on my trench warfare videos. Got my review for the Aaron Hernandez Netflix special coming here soon. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And if you like what I'm doing in this video, make sure you leave a like. I'd really appreciate that. But today we're gonna talk about the next part of the saga that is the Antonio Brown story.
In light of the information that has been presented, bond on count 1 will be set at $100,000. The standard bonds on counts 2 and 3 will remain in place. If Mr. Brown does post his voluntary bond, he will be placed on pretrial supervision. I'm ordering at this time a level 1 GPS monitor.
He's gonna come right back through you. Yeah, guys, I can hear you. Antonio, this has been a strange week for you. Anything you'd like to say to fans here in South Florida about the week you've had?
Antonio Brown, as most of you already know, was involved in a situation with a moving truck earlier this week, I believe it was. He was involved in an incident with a moving truck in which him and his personal trainer were accused of burglarizing and assaulting, or rather felony battery, on that truck driver that was parked outside of Antonio Brown's Broward County, Hollywood, Florida home. Now, we are receiving reports that Antonio Brown has turned himself in on an arrest warrant for battery and burglary, and this is coming from Bleacher Report. Let's go over this real quick, and then I'm going to give my opinion, kind of give you my perspective on these things. You know, Antonio Brown has been a subject of conversation for quite a while on my channel, and I think that it's important that we kind of break down the entire scope of what's going on in this guy's life. But let's look at this information here real quick first. Former NFL wide receiver Antonio Brown has surrendered to police after authorities issued a warrant for his arrest on battery, burglary, and criminal mischief charges per TMZ Sports. They initially reported Tuesday that Brown was not arrested, but considered a suspect in an ongoing investigation that saw his trainer, Glenn Holt, charged with 1 count of felony burglary and battery. The Hollywood Police Department was initially unable to contact Brown to determine whether it would bring the battery charges against him. And it says here, this was not Brown's first incident involving the Hollywood Police Department. He live streamed video of himself on Instagram yelling profanities at the police and the mother of his children, Chelsea Kiris, in front of their children. In addition to the profane language, Brown called the police other explicit names. Hollywood Police Department severed its previous ties with him as a result. What's more, Agent Drew Rosenhaus said he would no longer work with Brown until the receiver sought counseling. And Brown has played just 1 game during the 2019 season and was released from the Patriots on September 20th following allegations of sexual assault. Let's just go ahead and go into my perspective on this situation with Antonio Brown. Now, look, you know, I take no joy in going into a lot of these things about Antonio Brown, mainly because as a former player, you got to kind of understand that there is a distinct change in your life when you are no longer an active football player, when you are now crossing over into that realm of being a retired player. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, at this point, I think it's safe to say that Antonio Brown is at that point. He is at that junction in his life where we can honestly say he will no longer be a player in the NFL. I think it's almost a certainty that he'll never play in the NFL again. And that's a shame because of somebody with his amazing ability, somebody with his uncanny talents, for a lot of that to go to waste now because of the decisions he's made since the start of the NFL season, dating all the way back to his time with Oakland. You know, we have watched a person unravel, literally unravel from top to bottom. We have witnessed Antonio Brown's life come crashing down. And it's not something to truly make light of, to be honest. I mean, yes, we do have our jokes about him being a clown. I've done it myself. And, you know, that was in the scope of us kind of just looking at him as somebody who was acting out of sorts. But, you know, given the right situation, he'd be able to get everything together and get back out on the field and be that excellent athlete that we all know that he is. And I think that this situation here is near rock bottom for AB. I think that he is now being brought back down to reality in terms of what it is that his life has turned into and what his next steps are going to have to be. Now, with his bail, I believe was set at $110,000. 10% of that, he's paying about $11,000 to get out of jail. He is now being tracked by a GPS tracker, as well as having to report for drug and alcohol screening. And he is required to get a mental health evaluation by the time he has to come back to court. You know, I think that this really is a reality check. It has to be a reality check because there's not much further down you can go from here outside of the extreme. And this is a situation that should be a wake-up call for him. If there was nothing else before there was a wake-up call for him, this should be a wake-up call. And I say that because, you know, as a player who retired maybe before I wanted to, I can understand that there is a spiral that you kind of go into, a tailspin of sorts that you go into once your career is over. I went through that for a few years. I would guess a few years where I spiraled mentally, emotionally. This was a time in my life that was very dark. This was a time in my life that was felt very lonely. And, you know, I battled with a ton of depression, just battled with, you know, my own identity. Who was I? These were things that are real, that you deal with when you are in one box throughout the majority of your life and then are forced to, you know, move outside of that box and start anew in a different world. It almost seems like, as a former player. So I can understand where some of this spiral comes from with Antonio Brown, because to a certain extent, he realized at some point during this season that he was no longer going to be playing football. I think he realized that. And I think once he got to that point and it really sunk in, there becomes that void, there becomes that emptiness. And you really have lost, you've lost your identity. You see him out there trying to be a rapper. You see him out there trying to do things now that he would never have considered as a football player because it just wasn't who he was. He's trying to find something to fill that void. And it's a very, very big void to try and fill. So for a lot of the things that I can look back at with hindsight, I can see a lot of similarities in what I went through. Now, I was obviously not as a high profile an individual as Antonio Brown, but that is what kind of comes with that, his situation, is that he is such a high profile player that things that other players maybe go through privately. And yes, I've been arrested and I've had to sit in jail and I've had to go in and talk to people about why I was arrested. And the same things, you know, that he's going to have to go through here now. these are things that are going to be much more in the public eye because of who he is. But I think that it is an opportunity for him to find some kind of, stability for the moment, so he can have a clear look at what's going on in his world. He can have a clear look at what things really are. He can see things for what they truly are and begin to try and make some adjustments to allow him to move forward one day at a time. And, I really think that, if he can take this serious, if he can put the pride that he has as that athlete behind him for a moment and look at this and be serious with himself about what his life has turned into and what he would like to reshape it to become, then he can find the ability to take a step forward and to get back on some solid footing. But I think that this situation here is a sad situation, and I would hate to see it become tragic because he is not able to see the signs that are in front of him and be honest with himself about what really is going on. So we'll see how this whole thing plays out. I'm hoping for the best for Antonio Brown, regardless of all of the madness and craziness that's been going on. Let's see if this guy can find this as a moment to truly turn his life around, to truly turn the trajectory around from what it was and what it is at the moment to something better. But let me know what you guys think. Leave your comments down below. Make sure you hit that like button if you like this video. Subscribe to the Observant Lineman, Uche Nwaneri. I appreciate you guys very much for checking out this video, and I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.